The gavel struck like thunder, and the air itself seemed to flinch. Judge Aileen Cannon's gaze sliced through the courtroom, cold, unyielding, absolute authority in human form. Across the polished floor, Jasmine Crockett didn't blink. Her voice rose, steady yet burning with truth. With all due respect, Your Honor, justice doesn't belong to a throne, it belongs to the people watching you. A ripple of shock cut through the room, even the reporters stopped typing. For one suspended moment, power and conscience collided, two Americas staring each other down, but what unfolded next would shake the courtroom and the country. It wasn't just another hearing, it was the culmination of months of tension simmering beneath America's political surface. The case before Judge Aileen Cannon had become more than a legal proceeding, it was a mirror held up to a divided nation. Every network camera pointed toward that courtroom, every whisper online turned into a storm of hashtags and headlines. One side saw a judge defending order, the other saw a symbol of a system that had long forgotten its promise of fairness. Jasmine Crockett, the Congresswoman from Texas, wasn't just standing for herself. She was standing for every voice dismissed, every woman of color who had ever been told to wait her turn. Her calm defied the noise, her tone a deliberate contrast to the condescension radiating from the bench. The courtroom smelled faintly of paper and nerves, reporters scribbling, aides exchanging glances, the air charged with history in the making. Outside, the country held its breath. To some, Cannon represented discipline and decorum, to others, she was the iron gate that kept progress locked out. And Crockett, with her direct stare and unapologetic poise, had become a lightning rod for a new generation, one that refused to bow. This wasn't about who won an argument, it was about who defined justice in modern America. Every sentence carried centuries of weight: freedom versus fear, dignity versus dominance. In that moment, the courtroom was no longer a place of law but a battlefield for America's conscience. And just when it seemed the debate couldn't go further, Judge Aileen Cannon had once been hailed as a rising star, the emblem of composure in a chaotic political era. Appointed under the banner of law and order, she built her image on precision and restraint. But beneath that marble facade lay ambition polished into certainty. Critics whispered of bias, of decisions that tilted toward power rather than principle, of rulings that seemed to echo partisan lines more than constitutional ones. Yet Cannon thrived on the perception of control, the quiet applause from circles that mistook obedience for integrity. Her courtroom became her stage, each ruling a performance of authority, each pause a signal that she alone defined decorum. To her admirers, she embodied tradition. To her opponents, she symbolized how justice could wear a mask. The irony? In defending order, she had grown blind to the human pulse beating beneath it. She believed silence equaled respect, and fear equaled discipline, but in a nation that had begun to question who truly held the moral gavel, her confidence teetered on hubris. Because for the first time, her command of the room was about to be tested by truth spoken without permission, but the person they underestimated was about to rewrite the narrative. Jasmine Crockett's story didn't begin under the marble ceilings of Congress, it began in the hum of working-class neighborhoods, where justice wasn't an abstract ideal but a daily fight. The daughter of community organizers, she grew up watching her parents stretch their voices across town halls and protests, teaching her that silence was never safety. When she entered politics, she carried that lesson like armor to speak truth. Even when the room grew cold, her rise wasn't polished or privileged. She faced rooms where her accent drew smirks, where her hair invited judgment before her words did. Yet she never folded. Each insult became a brick in the foundation of her conviction. She represented a generation that refused to apologize for existing, that demanded its place not through anger, but through authenticity. Crockett's power wasn't in how loud she spoke but in how deeply she believed. When she looked across that courtroom, she didn't see a judge, she saw a reflection of every system that had told her to wait her turn. And she decided she wouldn't wait anymore. Her calm was not weakness, it was strategy. Her restraint was not fear, it was precision. No one realized how ready they were for what was coming. The courtroom air grew heavy, as if every molecule sensed the coming collision. Judge Cannon leaned forward, her voice crisp and clipped. Congresswoman Crockett, this court does not entertain grandstanding. The words hung sharp, slicing through the silence. Crockett didn't flinch. Her fingers rested lightly on the table, her posture calm defiance wrapped in poise. A single eyebrow lifted, a silent challenge, reporters scribbled faster. A camera's shutter clicked, echoing like a countdown. Crockett's reply came measured, each syllable deliberate. With respect, Your Honor, sometimes truth sounds like grandstanding when you've grown used to quiet. Gasps rippled through the gallery. Cannon's lips tightened. Her gavel struck once, twice, each hit louder than the last, as though she could hammer control back into the room, but Crockett's tone didn't waver. I'm not here to disrespect this court. I'm here because people outside these walls have waited too long for fairness. Her words carried the tremor of a generation watching, willing her to stand tall. The judge's eyes narrowed, the temperature in the room dropping to ice. Every spectator felt it, the invisible tug-of-war between authority and authenticity, and then, just as the air seemed to freeze completely, then one sentence changed everything. Crockett leaned forward, her voice low but resonant, the kind of tone that made people stop breathing for fear of missing a word. You say I'm out of line, Your Honor, she began, eyes locked on the bench, but I'm only standing where justice itself has been forced to kneel. The room stilled. Even the hum of the air conditioner seemed to vanish. Judge Cannon's expression flickered the smallest crack in her marble calm. Crockett continued, her voice gaining weight with every syllable. If truth makes you uncomfortable, maybe the problem isn't the tone, it's the mirror. A collective gasp broke from the gallery. Reporters looked up, eyes wide, pens frozen midair. For the first time, the judge had no words. The gavel didn't move. The silence was deafening, a silence that felt like history catching its breath. Crockett turned slightly, as if addressing not the judge, but the millions watching beyond the courtroom walls. People like me, she said softly, we don't fight for applause. We fight so no one else has to beg for dignity. Her final line landed like thunder disguised as poetry. Even her critics couldn't deny it, the truth had found its voice, but even after that mic drop, the storm was only beginning. Within minutes, the clip exploded across every screen in America. The courtroom confrontation wasn't just news, it was a cultural earthquake. Networks replayed the moment on loop, Jasmine Crockett's calm defiance, her words echoing with a power no microphone could contain. Hashtags erupted, hashtag justice speaks, hashtag Crockett vs. Cannon, hashtag stand tall, flooding timelines from Los Angeles to Atlanta. On cable panels, commentators clashed. One called it the moment dignity took the mic. Another sneered, labeling it a political stunt wrapped in self-righteousness. But online, the tide was unmistakable. Memes turned Crockett's stare into a symbol of resolve. TikToks remixed her line about mirrors into battle cries for every marginalized voice that had ever been told to stay quiet. Interviews poured in. Activists called her the face of moral courage. Pundits warned that she'd crossed a line. Yet, for millions watching from their couches, buses, and late-night shifts, she hadn't crossed a line, she'd drawn one. Between silence and speaking up. Between obedience and self-respect, America didn't agree on what justice looked like anymore, but in that moment, it remembered how it felt. Unfiltered. Unapologetic. Electric, and yet, amid the chaos, one truth stood taller than ever. When the uproar finally settled, Jasmine Crockett stepped back into the quiet, no cameras, no hashtags, just the weight of what she'd said still hanging in the air. In that silence, America found itself. The divide that had roared so loudly for so long suddenly felt smaller, as if truth had stitched a fragile thread between hearts on opposite sides. Crockett didn't claim victory, she claimed clarity. Justice, she later told a reporter, isn't about who wins in the room, it's about who dares to speak when the room is wrong. Her words became a pulse felt across classrooms, churches, and dinner tables. She had reminded a weary nation that dignity was not negotiable, and unity didn't mean silence, it meant courage shared. For a moment, politics gave way to principle, and people remembered that truth, no matter how soft it sounds, can still shake walls built on arrogance. But even now, this moment echoes louder than ever. The headline that once read, "Judge Aileen Cannon confronts Jasmine Crockett, the response shocks everyone," became more than a story, it became a statement. What started as a courtroom clash turned into a national mirror forcing America to ask who truly speaks for justice. Crockett didn't just challenge authority, she reminded us that courage doesn't need permission. As the final replay of that exchange fades from the screen, her words linger, still vibrating through every voice that's ever been told to stay quiet. Because truth doesn't whisper, it roars. And when it does, it doesn't just echo in courtrooms, it fills streets, classrooms, and hearts. If this moment stirred something in you, don't let it fade. Share it. Talk about it. Be part of the conversation that keeps justice alive beyond the headlines. Subscribe, stay engaged, and remember, every time you choose dignity over silence, you add your voice to the roar. The story of Jasmine Crockett and Judge Cannon isn't just about power, it's about the promise that truth, once spoken, can never be unspoken.